Hey guys, it's xNira with a different kind of video this time. This one's a little bit more number heavy. So I've made a spreadsheet and I'm going to kind of like walk you through what it tells you. So first I want to talk about these two columns, which is the defense and the resistance of all the units that, as of today, June 23rd. So any row that is highlighted yellow means that this unit has higher resistance and they have defense. And if it's normal, then their defense is higher than the resistance. So kind of just generally scrolling through this, you'll see that there's, it's kind of like, just kind of seems a little random. And then they'll be highly concentrated, and then it's kind of random, and then it's highly concentrated, random, concentrated, random, concentrated. And this is because the way they are organized, the way the units are organized is that there are general infantry units and then mages. And so this tells us that mages generally have higher resistance than they have defense, which makes a lot of sense. But the point about the infantry units is that just kind of looking at least at the red ones, which are from here to here, so the row 2 to row 36, these are units that are melee physical units. And just looking at how many highlighted versus non-highlighted rows there are, it seems like there are more units that have lower resistance than they have defense. And that is, a trend. So now that we've gone to a different part of the spreadsheet over here, I have totaled these numbers over here. So I can tell you that a quarter of red infantry physical units, so Manicheets are under mages, so this is just more like magic, physical. Quarter of the physical red units have higher resistance than they have res. About half of the magic units, Manicheets and mages, have higher resistance than they have res. For the blue units, about 40% of them have higher. So this is also rounded. This is rounded to 2 digits. So if I, or not this one, but some of these ones, like these ones are truncated to 2 digits. So just for reference, about 40% of the blue ones, blue physical units, have higher resistance than defense, and 48% of the mages, blah, blah, blah. And that overall, which is kind of like my point, is that 32% of units overall, or 32% of physical units overall, have higher resistance than defense. So this tells you that, like, if you're trying to pit a special on your unit, most of the time, that unit is going to be going up against a unit that has lower resistance than they have defense. So if you're deciding between a type of special like Iceberg versus Luna, this percentage tells you that Luna might not be quite as useful because 70% of the time that unit is probably going to have low resistance. So there was another kind of like logic jump that I will just point out there, is that I'm kind of making the logic point that because 70% of units have lower resistance than defense, I'm also making the assumption that, I'm making the conclusion that I can say generally 70% of the time the unit is going to have low resistance, which is not necessarily the case because some of these units, just off the top of my head, I can think of Gwendolyn has 38 defense and 28 resistance. So this 28 resistance is actually a fair amount, but because she has such high defense, she's kind of being counted in this category that says she has low resistance. So this is like an outlier, but like on average, if you just like look at this column, if you pause the video and look at this column, blue is a bad example, but these numbers are on average fairly low. If I averaged, here, we're gonna do this. We're gonna average F2 F143. Can I not do average? Okay, we'll do sum over 142. And then you can copy that here, and you can just put E. And so on average, units have 2 defense higher than res. So this is pretty misleading because obviously there's 143 units, and I bet if I removed all of, for example, if I took out all the healers, this number would go down and this number would go up. So let's do that. Let's do, instead of 143, we'll just do 130. And 130. And if we put this to 130, yeah, so this number went down by 2. Defense also went down by 2 because healers just generally have low bad defense. But, like, so that didn't quite demonstrate my point, but my point was that, like, some certain types of units are inflating these stats. So if I just did infantry, defense would go up and res would go down. If I just did mages, res would go up and defense would go down. But we have 103 physical units and only 32 mages and manichees. So, like, on average, you're going to run into more physical units. Like, not counting, like, if you just were going by, like, just like numbers, you would run into more physical units and magic units. Of course, people, like, have team comps, so people run 3 dancers and a healer, for example. But, you know, barring people's team compositions, there's a larger pool of physical units available. And so that was that point. But my point over here, so there's 2 points that I want to talk about here. The point that most units have lower res than defense. So they have lower res, so if you go for Lunar Moonbow, you're going to be shredding a lower amount of defense, or a lower amount of resistance, because on average, units have lower resistance. And the other point is that, by far, blue physical units are much more magically tanky than either red or green. And so I just got a comment recently, but also people ask me in the Discord a lot, but people ask why I put Lancebreaker on my Reinhardt, and it's because of this, because blue physical units are surprisingly tanky, and being able to quad the lance units is useful because of this 40% versus 25 or 21. So that was the two points that I wanted you to take from here. You may or may not agree with me about the statement that units have generally low resistance. But again, just pause the video at any point and just look at this column and be like, huh. Actually, we're going to do one other thing just to kind of prove my point. xNira is 35. So we're going to set this to 35. Wait a minute. Whoops, did I screw up? And then this would be, oh, you know why this, do you know why I forgot to change the whoops, 120. Forgot to change the bottom thingy here. So, didn't quite help, but we're gonna just change this to 30 just for reference. Wait, okay, that's not right. E30. So yeah, this demonstrates a little more that, like, so this is only red infantry units, that they have a difference of 4, which is better than a difference of 2. But, like, the 2 still kind of makes a point. But, like, on average, these units are going to have higher defense than they have res. And obviously this is an average, so half of the units have lower than 23. Just looking at units that are really common, like, let's see, Erica is a bad example, but like other units that have, like the other highlighted units, Kata is not used a lot. Eliwood, I don't see very much Eliwood, don't see much Fear, don't see much Hannah, I haven't seen any Lloyd, but especially now that he's no longer in here unit, don't see any Lynn anymore, but maybe it's just because, like, whatever Tierman, don't see very much Navarre, I don't see much Roy, but again, maybe it's the tier I'm at. So, like, units that you do see a lot are units like Ike, who has 18 res, or Lucina, who has 19 res, or who else? Like Xander, my boy Xander has freaking 17 res. Ryoma's got 21 res. So all, like, those, like, couple units I pointed out all are lower than the average. So I'm just, like, I really want to, like, hammer home that, like, the units you face are going to have lower res than defense, and their res is going to be, like, low, like sub 23 or something like that, you know. So moving on to, like, the actual point of the video, which is what special do you want to put on your mage. I have made damage calculations for Reinhardt. So this is using Reinhardt's stats. It has weapon, it has like all the rounding, it's got this is like the formula I put in. It changes later on, because later on, like when I get down here, I just like have base attack. This is this part here represents weapon advantage. This is special, so it's 0 because I'm looking at normal. So there's no weapon advantage because it's gray. There's no special because I'm calculating it for normal. And then the defense modifier is 1 because there is no defense modifier. So if I look at Moonbow, it's 0.7, and here it's 0.5. So down here, this part of the spreadsheet is much more consistent, but up here it's a little weird, but it still does the same thing. But so anyways, like looking up here, for Alphonse, whose res is low, Dragon Fang does a lot, Draconic Aura and Luna do the same thing, and Moonbow does less, but it still does more than normal. Obviously, everything does more than normal. But, like, the point I'm trying to make here is that because Moonbow and Luna are not shredding that much res here, these are not, like, the damage you're getting from these two are not as powerful as these two. Now, there are a lot of exceptions. So if we go look at green units, which there's a negative modifier here. These look a lot more grim. So a unit that has, like Anna, who has really high res. Okay, actually, let's look at somebody else, because she's not quite as high. So this Camilla, who has really high res, for Reinhardt, if he's attacking her, normal, he does 0 damage. Moonbow, he does some damage, but with Luna does more damage in Draconic Aura in this situation, because her resistance is so high, the shred actually makes a difference, and the flat damage from Dragon Fang and Draconic Aura don't equal the shred that you would get, because her resistance is high. But this goes back to the point that because resistance is lower on general, most of the time, we're going to switch these columns, because Luna is more comparable to Dragon Fang and Draconic Aura is more comparable to Moonbow. Oops! Hopefully that didn't totally screw up the numbers. Nope, it didn't. Okay. We'll just drag this column over here while it, like, recalculates everything. And I don't know why the formatting here changed, but it did. So for these two, like, you can see this, like, okay, the red is a bad example because Reinhardt just does a lot of damage to the red units, but, like, blue. Like, I think maybe for, let's look, okay, so most of the time, Dragon Fang will do more than Luna, and Draconic Aura will do more than Moonbow. The places where this is an exception are units that have really high resistance. So here for Jagan, you can see that even though Dragon Fang does 1 damage more, it's basically doesn't matter, because again, Dragon Fang has a 4-turn cooldown, so you're kind of compensating. But because his resistance is so high, Luna begins to kind of equal, and Moonbow begins to equal Draconic Aura. But because on average units have so much lower resistance, most of the time, Dragon Fang is going to be greater than Luna. Draconic Aura is going to be greater than Moonbow. And I picked Reinhardt for this reason, because Dragon Fang I think is actually highly viable on him, and you should definitely put Dragon Fang if you're looking for a special for your Reinhardt. It's because he has Dire Thunder, he gets Dragon Fang off a lot more, and so you can actually run away with Dragon Fang. And so he made a nice example of Dragon Fang versus Luna and Draconic Aura versus Moonbow, because even like, despite the 4-turn cooldown, you're going to get Dragon Fang off quite a bit. So, yeah. And then, like, again, down here, because these units have such high res, these numbers become highly comparable. Like, they, I wonder if there actually is a case where Luna outdamages Dragon Fang. Probably not, because Dragon Fang is pretty OP, or as far as, like, damage out. But the other thing this doesn't take into account is that it doesn't take into account, like, a death blow, which is calculated as, so, like, I could add, like, +6 here, and then +6 in all other places, but I didn't do that. So these numbers for Dragon Fang and Draconic Aura would be higher, because he would have, unless you're running some other weird A slot on Reinhardt, these would have higher. These would be higher. So hopefully this answers your questions about what special to put on your magic units. If you have questions about the spreadsheet, or if you have questions about how to interpret a spreadsheet, or like the kind of logic that I'm going through to determine what special to put on my units, then absolutely ask questions in the comment section, or check me out. Check out my community on Discord. It's a lot of fun. There'll be a link in the description below. So yeah, thanks for watching. I really hope you guys found this useful, because yeah, like I hope you found this useful in understanding the logic that I go through when I'm doing things for my units. So yeah, thanks for watching.